Here on One Soccer today, we are continuing our season in reviews for every single Canadian professional football side. And today, Oliver Platt, Jordan Wilson, and Gareth Wheeler are going to give some notes on the Vancouver Whitecaps season that was for 2023. As we start these shows, we remind you of the records, and then the gentlemen will reveal their letter grades for the season. So let's start with the fact that the Vancouver Whitecaps won the Canadian Championship again. They were the only Canadian side to reach the MLS playoffs this season. 13th overall, it's 48 points in 34 games, but it was a bit of a heartbreaker to LAFC with some post-match controversy and coach sending offs and very memorable quotes. Gentlemen, if you were to summarize this season in one letter, it would be go. I warned you even. I warned you it was coming. We got a B plus. We got B in what I think are mountains and not toenails that need to be trimmed from Oliver Platt. And another B
Mountains.
plus.
I love Vancouver. It's beautiful.
Jordan
A lot of sunshine
Wilson.
as well.
Where's the
You know what,
ocean?
I do
sea?
I love your
appreciate-
drawings,
Enough
Ollie.
time.
And you know what those mountains are not? They are not the Rocky Mountains. That's a lesson learned from earlier in the CPL season. Gareth Wheeler, explain yourself. Why did you choose the grade of B?
Okay, I think I was being a little bit generous with the B plus, but it seemed like a good working class letter for a team that has the working class MVP. Look, the record wasn't great on the season. 12, 12, and 10. 12 teams had more points than them across Major League Soccer. So there's no way you can give them an A, but they finished the season really strong. I think they maybe overachieved a little bit. And from an analytics perspective, they were excellent. They were the Columbus Crew, FC Cincinnati, and LAFC had a higher expected goals than Vancouver Whitecaps on the season. There were 6 overall expected goal differential over the course of 90 minutes. So I think they underachieved based upon how they actually played. And the fact that they gradually improved and got better as the season went on, made some big additions. I think it ended in a real positive way, despite being knocked out by LAFC in the end, which for me was the most difficult playoff match that they could have had in the Western Conference. So I was trying to look on the more positive side of things, some really good Canadian stories. Kubas was great. The White Gold combination. Overall, a big step in the right direction. And I think that this may lead to better things to come for the Vancouver Whitecaps. And that plus also was added because you said it, Adam. You went on and won the Canadian Championship. That's an accomplishment in its own right. So well done. Overall, a good season in Vancouver.
They took their Voyageurs Cup and moved that into CONCACAF Champions Cup. They had that experience, of course, with, unfortunately, again, LAFC and just how it did not go well in Leg 2. Also did very well in Leagues Cup, forcing Tigres to pens. So certainly some good cup competition as well. Jordan, your grade for this season and its explanation.
Yeah, no, well, you mentioned a lot of it. Why I gave them a B plus. I think this team, with the Can Champs winning it back to back as well, it's just nice looking at your season and you have some hardware. And they showed up in that big moment for them. I think when they played CF Montreal, they had a better side. And it seems like a while ago, right? So much has happened since then, but they showed up. And to win it back to back, that's also very encouraging. And then for me, they're favorites to go on and do the treble, the three-peat. Not the treble, the three-peat next season. With the side, how it's grown and how they've developed. Yeah, I know losing in the first round, but you're playing for me, the best team in LAFC. The most dominant team that could punish you. I think there was just a lot of moments in this season where they could be proud of. They never really got too low. They picked it up and they were kind of even throughout the season, right? Looking at the way that they were playing, they were progressive. I think that they had an identity. Vanni Sartini, it's hard not to like that guy with just how enthusiastic he is, but also how he brings that into his team. You could see it, right? Everyone was on the same page. And yes, they didn't have a longevity going into playoffs, but they still got there. And I think also that fan base has grown, and you could see that people are interested in this team. So the B plus is warranted for those reasons.
Don't worry, we will be clipping the fact you said they're the favorites to win the treble next season
because
that is going to age like a fine wine. But never say never. The treble going to get Jordan in trouble. Oliver Platt and your needed pedicure. Why did you choose your
I've gone with just a B, no plus. I feel like I feel better about the Whitecaps season than maybe, reading it out on paper, the end product looks. Like if you look at their points total, I think it's the same or give or take a point as it was 2 seasons ago when Sartini came in as interim coach at the end of the year and they went on that run. So maybe not quite as much progress as you'd like to see in
So
that
many
sense.
draws. Too many
Yeah.
draws.
Out in the first round of the playoffs in 2 games. Okay, the circumstances of that were obviously controversial, but couldn't quite have that playoff success. And you do have to look at the difficulty of the teams they faced in knockouts, right? LAFC in the playoffs, Tigres in the quarterfinals, or the round of 32 of the League's Cup. So they did run into some really good sides, and they did win the Canadian Championship. So good season, solid B. I think I still need to see another step forward before I start getting into the B plus A minus type of area, though.
Flipping it right back to you, I'll just leave you on the screen. Or no, I'm going to take it my moment. Thank you for that, producer Holly. You know who the real star of the show is. Who is your star performer for 2023?
I think it has to be the working class MVP himself. I don't have my hat to hand. I should have thought of that beforehand. Ryan Golds was outstanding for the Whitecaps. Certainly the talisman of the team in attack in terms of his creativity, his goal scoring, and just the way that I think the game went through him. When the Whitecaps were playing at their best, and also the reason he's been dubbed the working class MVP is the way I think he was emblematic of how this team works off the ball as well. They pressed all over the pitch. Worked hard from front to back, and I think that was a big part of this team's identity that you can't dismiss as well. So he stands out as the star performer, no question. But I'll give a shout to Ali Ahmed as well, who in terms of young Canadians, I think is certainly one of the more promising coming up and had an excellent year.
Gareth Wheeler.
By the way, working class MVP.
I know we know how you feel about it.
An ill-fated campaign, to say the least. But I appreciate what they're trying to do. I can't separate Brian White and Ryan Gauld. 15 goals for Brian White this season. That's a big number. Ryan Gauld, 11 goals, 12 assists. No one else, by comparison, within the team had more than 4 goals, and no one else had more than 5 assists. And the 5 assists were Julian Gressel, who got traded away. So those two were head and heels above everyone else. Kubas was great as well. But my MVP is going to be the guy that got a new contract that took off his shirt again, this close
right
to
beside
Oliver
Platt.
Vanni
So
Sartini is a stud.
In my ear.
The guy got a new contract, deservedly so. He's so entertaining, and he's insightful, and he's likable. I think he did a nice job with this team this year, and he ended up on stage singing at a Nickelback concert.
Huge moment.
What a guy. Andiamo. I learned what that word meant this year as well. So, Vanni Sartini, he's the real working class MVP.
Jordan Wilson.
It's hard to argue with Wheels. Gotta love Vanni. For me, I think someone who exceeded their potential, I think, this season is Brian Wright. He's a good striker, but 15 goals, 6 assists. Like he was the breadwinner for the side. I think for me, he has to take the performance. Yes, you would argue and look at the tandem and be like Gauld is one providing, and there's that chemistry for sure. It got to the point towards the end of the season, maybe not the last matches, but towards the end where they were like blind passes. Like they start to have that chemistry where Gauld knew where Brian was going to be. And when you get that partnership with a 10 or a midfielder and a striker, you have to hold on to that. Brian, if there's one guy who is not kicking at training or he doesn't want anyone to kick, it is Gauld, because that hookup has been exceptional. But again, I say why I'm giving it to him is because when you exceed your expectations, I don't think Brian Wright was looking at the season saying, I'm going to bang 15. I'm going to bag those. He's like, oh, double digits would be nice. I said double digits would be nice. I didn't think he would get 15 the way he did and be in a golden boot race. So for me, I got to tip my hat off to him.
And tip my hat to the Whitecap social media team who did the honeymoon game with White and Gauld. And it was nice to see their personality, and shout out the vibes being back in Vancouver. I think the supporters they've come in waves, some of the more fringe, but the diehards deserved being a part of those vibes again this season. And they certainly have higher expectations. If there was a disappointment though, for you, Gareth Wheeler, it could be a player, it could be a story, it could be anything. What would that be for 2023?
I'm not sure there was a really negative side. I think the crowd did come late to the party, but they inevitably got there. We understand the history. We understand why. I just think that maybe there wasn't enough time for some of this group to come together in the end, because Larea joined at the midway point, then Atakubi, then Hoylett. I think it was really smart by Axel Schuster to bring some Canadians back into that club. I think they just kind of ran out of time in the end. Perhaps if they started with some of these players, they would be in a very different spot, because that's where they kind of lacked at times during the season, where the potential wins ended up in draws. Just not enough depth in this team in attack at center back. There's still some areas that need to get bolstered. So maybe it was just the timing that all of it played out, but that's something that's very difficult to control and was out of really their hands. So that's about it. I don't know. It was a solid season. I don't think there was a whole lot of down points in the year.
Jordan Wilson, do you agree?
I do agree, and I remember saying in the beginning of the season that a successful season for Vancouver Whitecaps were getting to the playoffs and then winning something, having hardware, and they did that. Can champs, you can't take away from that. It's difficult to do, and they showed up in the right moment. But then you're looking at the season, how it went, and who they brought in, and you think, oh, they can maybe make a run. Again, I think they met the Giants in LAFC, where they kind of just punctured their tires and were a better side. But the only maybe disappointment I could see is maybe not making a run in playoffs. Because as you're watching this team throughout the season, you're like, yeah, there's something here. They played in good competition throughout the year. Maybe you could see them going further. But to lose first round, I guess that's the disappointment. But yeah, if I had to say something, that's what I would say.
Yeah, losing
My
Gressel
disappointment,
maybe,
Ollie, was that you didn't join Vanni Sartini with the tarps off post Ken Chin.
I'd love to
do
see
it
that.
now. Do it now,
I pay
Wally.
money for
Come on,
that.
buddy. Do it now.
I won't be pressured. The big disappointment, guys, was not that. It was the two playoff games and the way those two games went down. The first game of three, where the Whitecaps got absolutely shellacked on set pieces and basically lost that game.
Yeah, incredible
like
word.
that one. Lost that game on set plays alone. And then the second game, they lose at BC Place on the back of some highly contentious refereeing. So the way those two playoff games went down, both looking at themselves and some of the things they could have done better, but also looking at some of the circumstances, I think that was a very disappointing way for an otherwise very positive season to end.
My biggest disappointment of the season, I'm going to ask myself this question because I have that authority. People who genuinely thought Vanni Sartini made a death threat, because that is not how the English language works. That is not what happened, but we do not have time to fully go through that. Let's go to Jordan Wilson for your expectations for the 2024 Whitecaps season.
Everything that happened this season, but a deeper run in playoffs. I think they built this team up. I think Vanni Sartini, like I said, is enthusiastic. His man management skills, you could see, is A+. But now you want something. You want a bit of a run. You want to host games that matter and do well. So I'll take it a bit further. I've already said that they're going to do the three-peat, not the triple, to clarify, the three-peat and win Can Champ. But put something else on there as well. Put another trophy on there. Put another finalist or a finals in there as well. Just make a run. I think them going deeper in the playoffs is probably their goal as well, because now they've kind of gotten over that hump. They just need to take it a bit further.
Give me Vancouver FC and Whitecaps FC in the Canadian Championship next year. Thank you, Oliver Platt. Your expectations for next year?
I'm actually going to disagree a little with my friend Jordan. I want to see a step in the regular season. Obviously, the playoff success is what people are going to judge them on, but I think that could be a byproduct of a team that can really establish themselves in that top group in the Western Conference. Like go out there and put up 50 plus points next season. The Whitecaps haven't done that in several seasons now. They've only done it twice in their history. That's the kind of season where when you're really mixing it with Seattle, with LAFC, with whoever's up the top of that Western Conference, then you enter the playoffs feeling like we're not underdogs here. We're going to have some home field advantage. We can compete with these teams. And that, I think, is where that belief will come from. If it's another year where they're kind of 5th, 6th, 7th, you always enter the playoffs just feeling like there's stronger teams above you and maybe feeling like a bit more of an underdog than I think this team should feel at this stage of their development.
Well, they finally showed some ambition this season. Let's see what happens with Larea. His loan expires December 31st. Did Hoylett do enough to show that he can be part of the solution here? Need another attacker. I think they need another center back. The goalkeeper's fine for me. The Champions Cup guys as well. They were disappointing playing in the Champions League last year. They got a real chance to do something. I think they're a good team. Let's see if they can take another step in the right direction.
Jordan Wilson, can you make that dog squeak toy noise again when Ollie disagreed with you? Just that's what I want to hear to end
I
the
don't even know what it
Yeah,
That's the one. Right
No,
there.
but then it
That's
ended
the
up being a
one.
great point, and I was like,
Great way
like,
to end
I'm
the
the
show,
idiot.
James.